Our families were being threatened. A lot of bombs that we were finding underneath the cars as they would try to enter our concerns. We had to put Constantine wire around all our billets to protect our families. And, it was just a really intense time, and assisted with Flightline and really worked on the wards, sometimes the morgue. It went from more broken bones to how shrapnel can destroy a human body, or a lot of amputees. And probably the worst were the burns.
My primary job in the Marine Corps was a combat engineer. We primarily did construction, explosives. I turned 19 during that deployment. We were in Iraq when I turned 19. I remember seeing we had a gunnery sergeant who was, to me looked like middle to late 20s, not much older than I was. And he had a picture. They had a picture of him with his family. And he was deceased. He was killed in the Battle of Baghdad. And I think that was probably the first time it really hit me what I was really in.
My oldest son, Kerry, was a member of the United States Marine Corps. He was stationed in 29 Palms, California with the 3-4 Marines and deployed with them to Afghanistan. He was involved in a lot of killing. Didn't talk about it at all. I learned about it after the fact at his funeral from some of his company mates.
I was 24 years old in Vietnam. My squad, which was only 4 of us, would go out at night looking for trails, looking for whatever, set up an ambush. That's when I lost a man. Best man I ever had. And so to speak, he belonged to me.
I'd been blown up 12 times in those missions. Most of the time, it wasn't too big of a deal. We had the equipment and the vehicles that were up armored to take some pretty large blast. My Hummer had ran over EOD came out, the bomb text, and said it was a double-stacked anti-tank mine. And I'm telling everyone, let's push through our kill zone and let's get moving. And they're looking at me and they go, Sergeant Lee, our Hummer's on fire. So I just kept on living through the pain. And then when I got back, I went through all kinds of medical evaluations, and they found I had nerve damage in my leg. I had a traumatic brain injury because of the blast. My spine, my hips, all of that were out of whack. And so I was always in a lot of pain.
I was homeless 3 months. I remember that. So once you come home, now you're trying to figure out, where do I fit in? I mean, who am I? It's very difficult to find your footing.
They spin them up. It's the warrior culture. And it's indispensable to making them effective warriors, okay? Where they're not good is spinning them back down. So they come back from being in theater, on edge, involved in some awful things that we don't want to even think about. And then they come back and they have to face that. Because of the nature of how their anguish and torment arises, they're unwilling to share. Part of it's because they think it's a weakness, part of it's because they're embarrassed to talk about what they did.
The one word to describe, I think, in my experience, when I first meet these veterans, is tormented. A lot of our returning veterans come home tormented.
I was destroying myself on the inside. I had suicidal thoughts and went into the hospital. I'd never tried to commit suicide, but always had that ideation there that maybe it's just better off if I'm not around. And I would contribute my kids to the reason. If I was a single man and I didn't have my kids, I probably would have at least tried.
As I got older, things bothered me. And I'm talking 25 years after I'm out of the service. That's when it really started hitting me. I a lot of times go to bed at night with tears in my eyes. And I would sit watching TV, or supposedly I got a coffee table there, and I'd get out a piece of paper and a pen, and I'd try to diagram to myself, well, what if we went out this way? Or what if we went out that way, leaving the perimeter?
I had no insurance, in a bankrupt. I had so much money stacking up for bills. I was just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, everything was upside down. And so that's when we started entertaining the idea of a service dog.
I think of Steve. He was the first veteran I really saw how a service dog could be helpful. And it inspired me to seek out my own service dog. And then I met Dean, and he had a service dog. And then I could go on and on with these different veterans that have obtained service dogs and began to see that, wow, these dogs really make a difference in these people's lives.
When Ben walked in, like I felt like a connection instantly with him. And then we've been buddies ever since.
It's just like he knew before I did when my anxiety was going up. And so his way of alerting me would be, gently get up, and then would just stare at, look at me eye to eye, and he would just get my attention. So I would know in that moment, okay, I'm doing it again, aren't I? And he'd look up to me with those puppy eyes, and I'd just I knew how to get grounded, close my eyes, get my, breathing under control.
So if I'm sitting here and I'm in public and I'm anxious, I'm trying to usually hide my anxiety, and so I'm over here and I'm just holding with my hands, and then just see, yes, go boy, yes. Just moving those fingers, he notices it and he comes up and he does a nudge. And that sends a cue to me, oh wow, I must be getting anxious. So I'm able to, without realizing that I'm getting to that anxious point, I would easily just slip right into it. But now that he's there, he nudges me, I gotta give him a treat and I gotta acknowledge him. And then I start going through my head, I'm like, okay, here we are.
Lunar has done more for me than what he was trained for. And it didn't take me a week or two to figure that out. He's done more for me, I suppose you could call it psychological or whatever. He's made things a lot easier. I can drop anything on the floor, anything, and give him a command, and he'll pick it up and give it to me.
And sometimes they'll carry oxygen tanks. Sometimes they'll turn on the lights. Some are taught to open doors, They're all taught to watch the six, their back.
You fast forward since I've had Ben, I haven't been in the hospital for PTSD. I maintain a full-time job. I have a good job. I'm married. I have a good relationship with my wife, good relationship with my kids. He's helped me achieve dreams that I've had for a long time, and it's all because he helps me stay present.
There's somebody there that's looking up at you with unconditional love, not judging you for what you've done, the decisions that you've made, but is there for you all the time. I have to believe that's a powerful, powerful thing.
If you're a veteran and you feel like you might have any kind of problems whatsoever, I'm telling you right now, that dog's gonna love you no matter what your feelings are, no matter what you're going through.
I remember a time when I really felt I had no hope. And I always had, from that moment, that one defining moment, where I could have been a statistic, I had, okay, a little bit of hope. If this doesn't work, that's it, but a little bit of hope. And somebody conveyed that little sliver of hope to me once that turned my life around. That, okay, I got this, I can make this work.
Why not? Why not? We're killing ourselves at 22, 23 veterans a day. Why not try something different? For veterans with PTSD, having a service dog, it'll save their life. I truly believe 100% in my heart that it would save a lot of lives.